Hump day. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. You might have noticed I brought you the show from D.C. yesterday. You might have also noticed there was a grand jury convened on the seditious 6. Things are rarely coincidences, that's all I'll say, but I've never been accused of not putting my money where my mouth is. Also, the El Paso International Airport was shut down last night for what they were saying was going to be 10 days due to a national security threat. Well, it's actually short-lived. The FAA reopened the airspace earlier today, saying that it had been shut down due to cartel drone activity in the area. Awesome. And President Trump is inviting all the nation's governors to the White House for an annual dinner, except Maryland's Wes Moore and Colorado's Jared Polis. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is now boycotting the dinner, which will make this actually the first meal he's ever skipped. But first, if the DOJ can't arrest somebody for this, I don't know what they'll arrest anybody for. Let's do this. All right, look, folks, I ain't gonna level with you. When I started this show, I told you that I was gonna call balls and strikes like I saw it, even when it wasn't good for my own party, okay? Today's one of those days, unfortunately. In my humble opinion, Pam Bondi did a real disservice to Donald Trump and this nation, honestly, today. That's my concern, because Donald Trump has to succeed. If every part of his cabinet does not succeed, there's no more chances. Like, this is it. America's the last place. And was this hearing entertaining? Oh, yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Was it helpful? Not even a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about it, show you a bunch of the highlights and the lowlights, kind of let you decide. Now, right out the gate, I want to give credit where credit is due. Start on a high note. This country is, in fact, a lot safer than it was a year ago, which that execution would fall under the DOJ. So props for that, for sure.
The United States, under your leadership, has achieved the lowest murder rate in 125 years. That in the first year of this administration, murder is down 21%, robbery is down 23%, carjacking down 43%, and gun assault down 22%. That is what public safety looks like.
However, there is something to be said when your best spokesman is not you, when you are the witness. But basically, look, the rest of the hearing was a complete disaster. Look, I know Pam, all right? I was in her corner when she took office. I gave her all the benefit of the doubt. I still want her to succeed. But after today, I don't know how her political career survives, especially after Massie asked basic question. Look, love Massie, hate Massie. You do just hear this exchange out, because Massie's not politically motivated reflexively against Pam Bondi the way all the other Democrats in this committee were. Massie, who will be on later actually with Rob Schmidt, pointed out that beyond all the things we said yesterday, how badly this Epstein thing was clearly handled, clearly displaying why the issue's not going away.
I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did.
See, this is insane. Simple question, Attorney General. Why did you release that document? I mean, let's say the law says this and you do that. In complete violation of the law, what should happen? This is an honest question. Should someone go to jail for that? Probably. Someone at the DOJ did the opposite of what the law literally says. And people's lives, some of the victims' lives that were exposed there, enormous scrutiny. I mean, you've changed their entire life. But, what happens? No wonder we can't indict other people for violating the law, like Brennan and Comey and Clapper and Alvin Bragg and the J6 Committee and Fani Willis and whoever else. The DOJ can't even abide by the law themselves. The handling of this in this administration is what's causing more problems.
The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking. Co-conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files. But he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking.
They redacted the co-conspirators that their own DOJ deemed co-conspirators while releasing the names of the victims. I don't even have words for the dumpster fire that, honestly, like, Pam Bondi created for herself here.
The third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need, that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them.
Again, Congress should be able to see everything. That's part of the law. Who redacted these names of the men who may or may not have participated in this? And more importantly, why? Why did they do that? This is what I said yesterday. This is about powerful men and sometimes women getting away with all kinds of stupid stuff that you and I would be buried under the jail for that is morally repugnant and wrong and illegal. That's why this matters. Because if we don't fix this kind of thing now, how can you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, guarantee me that the next woman trafficked to some corrupt billionaire or head of state or powerful attorney won't be my daughter? That's what this is about. And the more you hide it, the worse it looks, and the more I'm going to double down on this. But the pointed question was asked, who is responsible for these screw-ups?
Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document?
And then she argued, like, this was a layup. If I was the Attorney General, I would have just turned around to my staffer and I would have been like, yo, get me on the phone right now with whoever redacted or didn't redact those specific documents. All this stuff is meticulously logged. Any agent that logs into any of this stuff, their name is on that log and they know exactly who did it. I would have fired them publicly and I would apologize to Congress for breaking the law. But no.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of over 4,700, and we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Not a good look for the Attorney General on TV. This attitude, it may work on all of her interviews that she does, not in front of Congress, on an issue that, honestly, most America is aligned on. And the juxtaposition, this was played today, the juxtaposition between Pam Bondi and Kash Patel here looked real bad.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI.
Oh. Don't give a 1-800 number in a hearing. Here's an idea. Just spitballing. You should go reach out to the victims, Pam. I mean, you have the list. Hell, we have the list now because you accidentally released it. I mean, you also have the 302s with all the interviews, so you know you have all the information in front of you. You give out a 1-800 number at a congressional hearing? Are you kidding me? But this was the line of the day. When Bondi tried to put this on Massie for not having this hearing when Biden was president, and boy, did that backfire.
This is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way
this goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
That's what we're talking about. This portion, Right now, we can't go backwards. All the other people, Bill Barr, who, by the way, his name does appear in some of these files, Merrick Garland, Bush, Obama, all of them, they all failed. They all failed, which is why we reelected Donald Trump in part, to fix this problem. And now it's on your plate, Pam Bondi. You took that in by taking this job. It was Donald Trump that made sure Epstein and Maxwell were locked up in his first term, and then Bill Barr sat on all the stuff that's being hid now that's coming out. No doubt, Pam Bondi, you drew the short straw to try to uncover something hidden, like Massie said, for decades. Probably the biggest scandal since Watergate. But that's the job.
An example, I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted.
You see why people like me are still thinking that this is a cover-up? A 302 form is an FBI interview with a suspect or a witness or something. Why are hundreds of them fully redacted? This is either a cover-up or it's incompetence. And I want somebody to go to jail for it. At a minimum, anybody involved with screwing this up should no longer work at the DOJ or have a law license or anything. But I think the funniest takeaway, and this is why I know Democrats are absolutely the worst, Jerry Nadler. That's just... During most of this hearing, we're screaming back and forth. He appeared to be asleep. And finally, he suddenly woke up and he asked, I think it's probably the only worthwhile question of his entire career.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way
ridiculous.
I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people.
Yeah, you know, as much as I hate Democrats, it was a good question. And the answer is zero. This should not be a partisan issue. In America, we throw pedophiles in jail or wood chippers, period. Did we get any more answers? No, we got this stupid 1-800 number. Today's hearing made this a bigger story because parts of this are still being covered up, and America is not stupid. She should have just shown up with like a list of people like, hey, here's who we're charging today. I'm hard on her because America needs Donald Trump to succeed. He does. If Donald Trump doesn't succeed, if Pam Bondi doesn't succeed, Donald Trump can't succeed. And then this country can't succeed. And this country will be finished if Democrats get their hands back on this place. The bottom line is that no one new is in jail. The DOJ has 6 million pages of investigations and hundreds of victims and no arrests. Author of Defiant Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid, the left's ongoing lawfare, Christina Bobb. Christina Bobb, you have followed this from the beginning. We were talking about this in D.C. yesterday. Why can't this just get done?
I know. It was a painful hearing. The whole process is difficult, especially because, as Massie pointed out, this has been going on for multiple administrations, and it's just become a complete dumpster fire in the Trump administration. My concern about this is that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, whoever's running point on this, is getting some bad information from people that are convincing them that this is the right way to go, that this is the best approach. Cover it up, cover it up. We saw this happen in Watergate, and I know you used Watergate as an example in your monologue. The way they got Nixon was not because he had anything to do with the break-in. The break-in had happened long before he even knew about it. What they got him to do was to agree to the cover-up, and that's what Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have been doing. You know, I don't have inside information on that, but looking at it as someone like you who wants to see President Trump succeed and wants to see this administration succeed, and certainly the Department of Justice, I've got some real concerns that they might be getting some bad advice and this could go sideways.
Yeah, but this should have been an absolute layup for Pam Bondi. Democrat Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon started complaining about the government keeping, secret lists, okay? When they were keeping lists of like gun owners, people buying more than X amount of ammo, people who opposed masking and vaccines and school board meetings. Roll this.
We do understand that your current position is that you have a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism.
You're right. That's why we're so glad they rescinded the
That's right.
Memorandum targeting parents.
Why did Jim Jordan have to answer that, though? I mean, Pam should have nailed that one.
Yeah. I mean, it was a mess of a hearing. I am certainly not going to cover for that. I don't have a great answer for that. I think that Pam Bondi has got a lot coming at her. I'm not in any way trying to defend her, but like you, I know her. Like you, I've always liked her. I always want to see her succeed. I don't know, if she's not in that position, I don't know how it gets better. So it has to come from wanting to expose all this. And until this administration gets there, I don't know.
Yeah, but obviously Democrats always do stupid stuff. They always ask these gotcha questions like, did you stop beating your wife today? And
Right.
yes, this is what Democrats do after a lot of these, like Jerry Nadler, that dude's been in Congress for like 490 years, okay? So he was there when all this was being covered up for the last 20, 30 years. But they're trying to make a viral moment to use it for their campaigns. But Pam Bondi actually, I hate to say it, kind of made it easy for him today. Watch this.
I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done.
She went and brought up the stock market and says we should be talking about that. But I'm like, you have to answer the questions.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem, why she was struggling throughout the whole thing is, I don't think, it's very hard to defend secrecy and not disclosing things. She's in a hard position. The position that this administration has taken, or at least this DOJ has taken on this case, is a very hard one to defend. And unfortunately, it makes it really easy for Democrats in situations like this. They've got layup after layup after layup because they're in the, quote unquote, the high road, right? So,
Democrats are never on the high road.
I mean, but it's kind of weird because you have both Republicans and Democrats calling for the release. You've got both Republicans and Democrats that have covered it up. It's just kind of a weird mess that has landed in the Trump DOJ's lap, and they're not in a great spot.
Yeah, I'm just going to make bumper stickers, pedos and wood chippers. Christina Bobb, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, oh boy, Canada. Canadian security officials identified the suspect in a deadly shooting as, trans. We're going to give you those details in just a bit. But first, the voter ID showdown continues, an issue that gets about 80% support across all of America and party lines. So why would Democrats vote against it? Senator Markwayne Mullin going to sound off on that in just a sec.
Donald Trump's second presidency is changing America. Now you need to watch Rob Schmitt tonight on President Trump's next big move. Then tune into Rob Finnerty taking on Trump's critics. President Trump says he watches Newsmax. You should too. Download our Newsmax app to watch us anytime, anywhere. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Be one.
Set sail toward fast asthma relief with Brethora.
$300 for a refill?
Don't pay that. Use Single Care. Look up your prescription, show the coupon to the pharmacist, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
Power of disease. Ticks and fleas. Intestinal worm.
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
The fact we're even talking about this is insane. The House voting on the Save America Act, which requires proof of citizenship for voters and voter ID and registration and cleaning ballot roll or voter rolls and all these things. Americans use IDs for literally everything, every single day. Basic tasks: open a bank account, board a flight. I used it today to get on a plane. Renting a car. Heck, you can't even pick up your own with your own name on it FedEx package or UPS without showing an ID. Why should we not have it to vote? Makes no sense to me. But anyway, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, sir, this has been passed by the House back in April, and it was sent to the Senate, and Thune never took it to a vote. Now they're voting on it with extra things in it. And you have Lisa Murkowski being like, I'm not voting for this.
Well, you have Lisa and Mitch that's come out and said they won't vote for it. We're going to probably bring it up in 2 weeks. And I'm pretty confident we'll get 51 on it. But of course, the Democrats are sitting here and saying it's Jim Crow 2.0 because when you can't make a logical argument against the fact of having to show an ID before you vote, they want to call it racist, right? 37 states in our union already have this. There's only 13 states that don't. And surprisingly enough, they all went for Harris and Biden in both elections. I'm sure there's no coincidence there, but whatever. This is common sense. Like you said, there's so many things in life you can't do. You can't open a bank account. You can't get on a plane. You can't buy tobacco. You can't buy, alcohol. You can't even sign up for government programs or rent a house, rent a car. There's nothing you can do right now without having a driver's license. And in fact, today, Democrats in Illinois are having a party and for their new Democrat candidates, and you can't even get into that party unless you show your ID.
Senator, it says it on the invite.
It's absurd why they wouldn't say you shouldn't vote with an ID.
Yeah, it says it on the invite.
It says it on the invite.
We have it up right there on the screen. I mean, come on, you cannot make this stuff up. All right.
You literally can't make it up.
Yeah, there's some other holdouts. Obviously, we talked about Murkowski and Mitch McConnell, but Susan Collins and even John Thune. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself,
John's on board.
He is on board
John's
now.
on board.
Okay, he's on board now.
Yes, he's 100%. In fact, I think he's a co-sponsor of it.
All right.
I think he signed on to the co-sponsor. And I don't think Susan hasn't come out and opposed it. She just hasn't signed. She hasn't signed on as a co-sponsor. But I haven't specifically talked to her. The only 2 people that's come out hard against it is Lisa and Mitch. Mitch said verbally the last time he was able to be here in Congress that he was going to come out, oppose it real heavy and work against it. But at this point, Mitch really doesn't have any sway in this. I mean, there's already 50, I think we have 50 co-sponsors on it right now.
And you don't think any Democrats are going to vote for this? Like, no Democrat is going to wake up and be like, wow, I better not be stupid today. I should vote for this.
I don't know, because like I said, there's 37 states that already have it, and there's some states that have it that have Democrat senators involved. So right now, all of them are staying quiet if they haven't already come out and outright opposed it. I think it puts them in a hard position. So the vote's not cast until we actually bring it to the floor. Mm-hmm. But I'd be surprised if any Democrats actually vote for it.
Yes, Democrats.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if John Fetterman voted for it. Huh? I bet he probably does vote for it.
Yeah. Well, then there you go. You got your numbers. Senator Markwayne Mullin, we got to leave it right there, sir. We appreciate it.
All right, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, also a good day for Trump on the economy. The January jobs report just came out after being delayed because of the partial government shutdown because the Democrats didn't want to agree to anything. Now, the U.S. adding 130,000 jobs in January. That's double the anticipated number, with the unemployment rate dropping 0.1% lower than expected, down to 4.3. Weird. It looks like all the experts were wrong again. White House Deputy Press Secretary Kush Desai. Sir, it's so crazy. Who are these experts and how do you get rid of them?
you know, we're all wondering too how you can keep calling yourself an expert despite getting everything wrong. And it turns out the experts keep getting everything wrong, and President Trump keeps being proven right about everything.
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty shocking to me. But time and time again, we've had all these things, and everybody says that Trump's going to destroy this, he's going to wreck the economy, he's going to ruin everything. But we just found out that under Trump, federal unemployment is actually, and I'm a big fan of this because I hate the government, I think they should fire more people, but it's the lowest level of federal employees since 1966.
That's exactly right. Look, President Trump pledged to right-size the government, slash waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's exactly what he's doing. And you mentioned before that, you know, we had 130,000 jobs, but we had actually 170,000 private sector jobs. Those are real, sustainable jobs driven by the private sector, and that's what we care about and are focused on. And so when you look at the trends here in the data, when you look at construction growth being robust, especially construction jobs, building these factories that the president's securing many investments in, we're seeing real meaningful growth that's sustainable. And unlike Biden, who was just adding fake make-work government jobs to juke up the numbers to make himself look good.
Yeah, no, I remember covering all those numbers. I'm like, these are government jobs, and finally somebody's listening. But the crazy thing is you have Democrats like Gretchen Whitmer, who's the worst, by the way. It's like the Wicked Witch of Michigan. She is bleeding jobs out of her state, losing nearly 20,000 just in January, which is 77% of all the jobs total lost in the Midwest for the month. But yet she's saying somehow it's Trump's fault.
Look, the thing is that we're seeing this across the board. I mean, I've been seeing this for years, where there's a clear divergence between blue states run by incompetent Democrats and red states run by very competent Republicans. We're seeing Republican-led states who are embracing the president's common sense agenda to slash regulations, to drill, baby, drill, to cut taxes, seeing jobs and wage growth that are robust. And Democrat states are seeing the exact opposite. And it's not just jobs, it's also inflation. Inflation in Democrat states and energy prices tend to be much worse. I don't have to tell you about how bad things are in California, for instance, and how much more gas costs in California. So this is a very clear trend of Democrats not knowing what they're doing and Republicans knowing exactly what they're doing.
But here's the other thing. Is yesterday we ran a poll, obviously, that was done by, I think, CBS or something like that, that said most Americans don't approve of what Trump's doing in the economy. How is that even a feasible poll?
Sure, look, I mean, for one, there's still a lot of Americans who are struggling with Joe Biden's affordability crisis, and we acknowledge that, and we're trying to help them every day. But the second thing is that it's just an onslaught of fake news by the media who are obsessed with trying to drive a totally fake narrative that the economy is in the doldrums. I mean, you've been hearing about how tariffs were supposed to ratchet up inflation for a year now, and inflation continues to cool. You're supposed to hear about how tariffs would destroy our economy and create job loss and all these other things, and the exact opposite's happening instead.
Yeah. Well, Kush, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, coming up, one Illinois town rolled out their first round of reparation payments to 44 black residents who were never slaves from people who never owned slaves. Unbelievable. We got that and more in our Culture Clash.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
$12,720. That's the average cost you pay for term life insurance over 20 years. $12,720 that you could spend on family, loved ones, or yourself. With a return of premium life insurance plan from Senior Life, getting all that money back is possible. That's right. With return of premium life insurance, we don't save you hundreds of dollars, we save you thousands, because we give you all your money back. It works like this. If you pass away while you're insured, your loved ones get a check for the coverage amount you chose. But if you're still living at the end of the term, you get back all the money you paid, guaranteed. Spend it any way you wish. Why would you buy life insurance from another company when Senior Life gives you all your money back? Get all your money back with return of premium life insurance from Senior Life. Call the number now for free information. You have no obligation. Call now.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. Ah, my phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PCmatic.
PCmatic blocks ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PCmatic.
48% of Americans don't get enough magnesium, which is vital for bone, nerve, and muscle health. I recommend Cunol's magnesium glycinate. It's formulated for high absorption and is gentle on the stomach. Cunol, the brand I trust.
The Chicago suburb of Evanston has officially handed out their first wave of reparation payments to 44 black residents. Established in 2019 and approved by the city council in 2021, the program issues $25,000 in direct cash payments to black residents and descendants of black residents who lived in Evanston before 1919 and 1969. So let me get this straight. These taxpayers are now paying money to people who were never slaves from people who never owned slaves? Evita, Duffy-Alfonso, independent journalist, and Hayley Caronia, host of Scrolling with Hayley. Hayley, I really thought this would never pass, but you're just going to cut people checks for no reason.
Of course, this is Democrats. This is the Democrat stronghold. This is exactly what they're going to do. I'm actually, 44, right? I'm wondering, this isn't very Marxist of them. This isn't very spread the love, spread the wealth of them. Just 44. They could only find 44. And the only qualification that you need is that you had a descendant who's also black that lived in the state or in the county or the city for that amount of time. That doesn't mean that they experienced racism or slavery or anything like that. And of course, they haven't found any philanthropic donations to fund this madness. Imagine that. And so they're going to have to raise taxes, as Democrats do, and they're starting with THC products. So it's going to be white stoners funding more degeneracy.
Yeah, that's going to be great. I can't wait for that. All right, Evita, this is how reparations are going towards, though. Allow me to introduce you to Zakilma Ibarowi. He's a PhD, a she-they, an anti-disciplinary artist, assistant professor of black sexualities in the Department of African American and African Studies at Ohio State University. Let's just take a look at her, quote, areas of expertise: black study, black feminist theory, black porn and sex work studies, dark black study. I didn't know there was two different shades of the race, but okay. Anti-blackness, black sexual logistics, black queer theory, horror, black digital intimacy, and black, I don't even know what that word is.
Carl, this is the death of the American mind. You just laid it out for us. I went to university. I'm telling you, there are dozens of these classes at every single college across the country, which, by the way, the vast majority of them we as taxpayers fund. These are con artists. These are crackpots who are appearing as professors, as people who are qualified in these, very prestigious fields of study. And the reality is that they are saddling America's youth with thousands and thousands of dollars of debt for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett also, Haley, just came out with a new, quote, fear for black people and minorities. Watch this.
So I think it is what so many black people fear, is that, you know, even the most quote unquote well-intentioned white folk sometimes behind closed doors may say things about us and it makes us question. And it doesn't matter your political affiliation. And I think that it is a real fear that a lot of not just black people, but minorities have about how they may get talked about behind closed doors.
I don't even know what she said.
This is projection, and it's also indicative of a huge level of insecurity coming from Jasmine Crockett. I think a lot of people talk badly about Jasmine Crockett, but not behind her back. They do it out in the open. They do it to her face.
Right here.
And it has nothing because of her skin color. It has nothing to do with her race or her socioeconomic status or where she grew up or anything like that. It has everything to do with what's inside her brain, which isn't much.
Yeah, Evita, I got like 30 seconds left here, but this is the same. You got people like this and Joy Reid and Don Lemon. They all play the same card.
Yeah, well, let me just say, I mean, about the left-wing media, they have proven to us time and time again who they are. Covington Catholic schoolboys, the Russia collusion hoax, Brett Kavanaugh, fiery but mostly peaceful, Kyle Rittenhouse, Joe Biden's mental acuity. I mean, I can keep going. They lie constantly, and they pretend to be real journalists, people of integrity, and it's never true.
Yeah, well, Haley and Evita in her perfect kitchen, we appreciate it. All right, coming up, I would long to have a kitchen that clean one day. Another shooting by a suspected tranny, but this time in Canada. Weird, I thought they banned all the guns and they got them all off the street. Whatever, we got that next. Hey, I'm Carl Higbie from Newsmax. Look, I'm unapologetically pro-American, and honestly, this is the one place that lets me call it how it is. I'm not holding back. I'll give it to you straight every single night.
Let's face it, folks, car repair costs are not going down anytime soon. In fact, they may be only getting worse. Protect your hard-earned dollars with a money-saving plan for your out-of-warranty vehicle with one call to CarShield. Plans offer protection on big items like your car's engine, transmission, AC, and thousands of parts and systems. Call now. Waiting could cost you thousands.
Get your free quote and lock in your rate now. Call 800-258-7591.
The sound of an American original. It's the Omaha Steaks President's Day event, and we're celebrating with our President's Day assortment, all for just $99.99. Save 50% site-wide and get free burgers when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
I'm former Mets manager Terry Collins. The Tunnel Towers Foundation is very important to me, and I look for ways to try to support them any way I can. If a first responder is killed in the line of duty, T2T will pay off the mortgage for their family. That's just one of the ways T2T makes a difference. You can support their cause as well by donating $11 a month. Go to T2T.org, let's go Mets, and let's help Tunnel Towers.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slowmag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slowmag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slowmag.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning, and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and it's a good life. I'm Randy, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
All right, folks, this is some breaking news. The House just voted to overturn some of President Trump's tariffs on Canada. Several Republicans actually joined in the Democrats, including this Don Bacon, Kevin Kiley, Brian Fitzpatrick, and this is why I say I don't like him all the time, Thomas Massie. Okay? Huge jerk move by all those guys right here. But President Trump posting on Truth Social, any Republican in the House or the Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time. Probably, but also it's hurting the country. And that's what I don't get with those guys. Anyway, Andrew Klavan, host of the Andrew Klavan Show. Look, sir, I gave Massie props in my A block because I agreed with him on that issue. This one, I think he's being a total tyrant.
Yeah, he's being foolish because Trump has used these tariffs so well that all the predictions from the experts, which were loud and clear that this was going to be an absolute economic disaster, have proven to be untrue. And it's because he's not just leveling tariffs, he's using them for leverage in negotiations. And through those negotiations has won a lot of good deals that have re-established trading patterns in America. And I think they're just being foolish. But Republicans are like this, man. They do not vote together. Have you ever seen a Democrat move away from the fold? They vote as a single block. It's like they're a single mind. They run as liberals, moderates, and far left, but they all vote together.
I will say the one person who breaks from Democratic rank is the guy who recovered from the brain injury, and that's obviously.
Yeah, exactly. That was the sign he was cured. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So speaking of Canada, though, this is like I hate to see this. Okay, this is terrible news, but we got to address the subject and how it happened and why it happened. This is a school shooting in Canada. 10 dead, 25 injured during the country's deadliest shooting in nearly 40 years. High school students barricaded in classrooms, and they got tables up the thing. The shooter was wearing a dress, opened fire. Okay, you think dress might be a girl. No, take a listen to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Staff Sergeant Chris Clark describe the shooter when asked about the death toll. Roll this.
That includes the deceased gun person.
It was a trans person on heavy SSRIs and transitioning genders.
Yeah, well, this is repeated again and again. The percentage of shooters who are trans is enormous. They have an enormous presence in violent demonstrations in places like Seattle and Portland. Look, it's obviously. It's a mental illness, but it's an induced mental illness. It's brought forward by the left and their media on the basis of a theory that has no connection to science whatsoever. A college professor who is not happy about the fact that she's a lesbian, Judith Butler, who's involved in the kind of German philosophy that lets you invent your own reality, comes out with a book which I have read for my sins and can tell you it's a complete grift, which basically puts forward this idea. And the entire left-wing establishment immediately says, yes, we can now castrate children and cut off their breasts in Nazi-like experiments with no connection to science or reality at all. And the medical society has joined in on this, as we know from audio exposed by my colleague Matt Walsh, where they say this is great. This stuff is great because they're going to be in surgery for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So these people are already confused, and then society conspires to make them mentally ill. And the fact that they should be violent is not surprising because they're at war with reality, and they need us to basically affirm their mental illness by using their right pronouns. And if we don't, they're lost, and we don't, and they are lost. And this is obviously it's the person with the gun who bears the responsibility. But I think the left bears a lot of blame for this, for basically affirming this mental illness as reality when it's simply not.
Right, but also they've given, look, look, the trans community has a 50% suicide rate, and there's no correlation to showing that going down if they do transition, as the claim is with most doctors. But the other thing here with all this, they've given people this illusion of safety too by banning all the guns in Canada, and yet this still happens.
Well, of course it still happens. I mean, the old saying that if you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns is absolutely true. There's no, it does cut down statistically on some mass shootings, but it doesn't cut down on crime. It doesn't cut down on murders. And it's very hard, having lived in Europe, to explain why we believe in our guns. But it is because we believe in our individuals, because we believe that power should come up from below, not down from above. And that's the way. And the only way to ensure that is to make sure the government is afraid of us and not us afraid of the government. And it's just hard to get across to people.
And the only government that seeks to take away guns is a government that's about to do something that somebody would probably shoot them over. So, Andrew Klavan.
As they do again and again.
Gotta leave it, sir. There, sir. Thank you.
Great to see you, Carl.
All right, coming up, remember when the China trade deal failed in Trump's first term? Well, does it have to do with the Epstein files? Ike's next.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
Let's go to Mike Johnson real quick.
With the overwhelming majority of Americans who demand secure elections. Standing with me are some of the champions of this cause in the House and some of the leaders outside our chamber who've been working on this issue to ensure this integrity for quite some time, and this is a big achievement tonight. By voting for the Save America Act, House Republicans did exactly what the American people sent us here to do. It's promises made, promises kept. Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling. Because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense. All this Save America Act does is it enhances the SAVE Act, which you've already passed twice before, which says that you have to have proof of citizenship before you register to vote in federal elections. The law already provides for that, but we need to ensure that it's enforced. And the second part of it, what we added tonight and what is part of the Save America Act is the second piece, the very common sense requirement that you have a photo ID if you're going to vote. So that's it. That's what the bill does. Proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote. Everyone in the country understands the necessity of that, understands how simple it is and how important it is. And the only people that oppose it are people who want to cheat our system, who want to participate in our elections illegally, unlawfully. And that's not fair to the American people and the citizens of this country. And so we had only one House Democrat participate with us tonight. This has become a bitter partisan fight, and it's madness to us. We can't quite understand what the rationale is for opposing a free and fair election. But they're going to have to explain this to the people. And they're going to have a hard time doing that. Now, this bill, having passed the House, will now go to the Senate. And we are encouraging all of our Senate Republican colleagues who believe in this just as we do to try to get this thing through the system, to pass it there. And we're hoping that some Democrats in the Senate will come to their senses and do the right thing for the people. Otherwise, they got a lot of explaining to do, as we say down in the South. This is something that is overdue. It's something that's common sense. It's something that comports with what the American people want. And there's really just one question that would linger over all this now. Will Senate Democrats continue to cater to their extreme left-wing base, or are they going to finally join the overwhelming majority of Americans on this common sense reform? But I'll tell you this, once again, Republicans have demonstrated that we are the party of common sense. We are the party that's delivering exactly what the American people sent us here to do, and we will continue that. Got a lot of champions that you can hear from here shortly before we take a few questions, and I'm going to yield first to Chairman Brian Stile, who has worked really hard on this issue. Where is he at?
Right behind you, Mr.
Thank you,
Speaker.
sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. What an exciting day to have passed the Save America Act, moving forward two absolutely essential and important topics in election integrity. Making sure that it's only U.S. citizens who are voting in U.S. elections by ensuring that there is proof of citizenship at the time of registration. The other topic being photo identification. And as you watch the left push back against this, you realize how ridiculous their argument is. We were having a debate at committee on the topic of photo identification. I flew home to Wisconsin, went, grabbed a six-pack of beer. The clerk recognized me, said, "Hey, Brian, can I see your ID?" Said, "Sure." I opened up my wallet, handed my wallet, he checked it. He allowed me to buy a six-pack of beer. I just think it's absolutely nuts that we protect our beer more than our ballots in jurisdictions across this country. The legislation today is a meaningful and real step forward in election integrity to make sure that it's only American citizens who are voting and that the people are who they say they are who come to the polls. So I appreciate the work of the leadership, our outside friends who are with us today.
Look, I have given Mike Johnson a hard time in the past, but bravo, man. This may be the single most important piece of legislation in our lifetimes, because this takes away the massive machine of Democrats just waltzing people in there, buying them a pack of cigarettes and stuff like that. This is fabulous. All right, before we go find your inner peace, take a hike, we're going to tell you why.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
At 43 years old, I don't mess around with products that waste my time. Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips. Just add a little bit on top of your toothpaste when you brush your teeth. And ta-da! White teeth.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth and just be old Nana or Pop-Pop, or you could be smiling and dazzling, full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
I drink coffee every day. I started noticing that my teeth were not as bright as I like them to be, a little dingy. The Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
It's really a no-brainer if you want to whiten your teeth.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping, a free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings. Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Rose Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Connect with a provider at ro.co/sparks.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
So Forrest Gump decided to run across the country from Greenbow, Alabama, but a group of monks from Texas decided to take a easier pace. 19 Buddhist monks from around the world left Fort Worth, Texas in October and set out to walk to our nation's capital. Yesterday, 108 days later, they must have been really going slow. The monks completed their 2,000-mile trek over to the National Cathedral. One of the monks addressing their so-called walk of peace.
We are not walking from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. to bring you any peace, but to raise the awareness of peace.
But according to reports, if you're not inspired, you're the problem, at least from what the AP is saying, quote, their simple mission to advocate for peace has resonated across a beleaguered country and appeared especially welcome in a city at the center of political strife and power. Rob, someone should tell them that if you want peace, prepare for war.
That's the most Carl line of all the Carl lines. Hey, you got to give the Buddhist monks a break.
My mom's a Buddhist.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Add that to the list of stuff I never thought I'd hear out of your mouth. Yeah. Wow. Okay. You know what? I'm all for the peaceful Buddhists. You know what? They're nice people.
All right.
Good to see you, Carl.
Later, man.
All right.